Today's webinar is about building human capability and skills that matter in an AI-driven world, especially. And we have been joined by Dr. Ronak Batra, who has over 9 years of experience in strategy consulting across BCG, PwC, and McKinsey. He has worked with senior leaders across the Middle East and the APAC region, and his work focuses on leadership development and workforce transformation. His perspective on AI is grounded in how human judgment and decision making evolve as technology becomes part of everyday work. Welcome, Ronak. Thank you so much for taking the time for being here and discussing AI with us today. We also have Smita with us. She's a leadership and team development coach. She has an ACTC and BCC credential, and she's also the director of sales at Coacharya. Now, she will be facilitating today's conversation with Dr. Ronak, and we will be discussing quite a few things, such as clarity on which human skills become more important as AI becomes part of everyday work. I would also just like to mention that there are a few programs coming up. You can all head to our website and check them out. I will leave the link in the chat box, and you can feel free to use that to go to our website and check out our programs. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Smita, over to you.
Thank you, Yamini. Okay, so Ronak, this is getting recorded and it'll be posted, so we'll continue. And as we go by, I think more guests will join in, participants and coaches will join in. So hi, Harsha, Rinku, Ananya, all familiar, names from Coacharya, and Rinku and Ananya are currently, in the training journey with Coacharya. Yes. All right. So this topic today is, quite interesting. And just before we were starting this webinar, Ronak and I were talking, saying, sometimes the topic on AI can be interesting, intriguing, but at the same time, sometimes it feels like, oh my God, again, a topic on AI. However, there is every day there is evolvement happening in that space. And now, as we have progressed so far with AI, what we are really seeing the connection of what has progressed in AI and the connection of that in the space of leadership, right? Like how humans, is evolving as AI is, and how do we integrate the role of AI, which is going to stay with us for longer, as all of us really get inspired and we are really getting the benefits of it. However, how do we not lose the human element, is what the discussion today is. So it'll be like a flow of conversation between me and Ronak, and feel free to type in for any questions or comments that you have in the chat. And in case you have a question and you want to, because if it is a small group, we're happy to just unmute, and you can just voice out your question as well. So Ronak, shall we get started?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for the kind introduction, Yamini, and Smita, you're pretty spot on the fact that AI is here to stay. But at the end of the day, I feel whenever I do talk about with anyone about what exactly are they using AI for, more often than not, the answer is now I can write better emails. Now I can make sure that whenever I do submit my performance feedback at the end of the year, it is more structured. But beyond that, I still feel that people are not able to really comprehend the extent to which AI is really being leveraged. Just as an example, right now, Elon Musk is, with all his cutting edge innovations, is now, pushing the envelope here with Neuralink, essentially a chip which can be implanted in the skull, and it could enable people with disabilities to put their thoughts into action because that chip is linked to the motor spine. And now with Grok being integrated into that chip, uh, all of a sudden people with disability have access to a lot of information and insights, right, when they think.
Yeah.
So in layman terms, while we type out our prompts, people think those prompts and they get an answer, right? So that is again, like I said, it's still early stage from that perspective, but we are doing some cutting edge stuff. Similar to that, uh, the very, I think, evolved stage of AI would be sentient artificial intelligence. Essentially, when they become aware of their own identity and they are able to process emotions like we do as humans. So right now, when LLMs were initially built, they were totally reliant on, text data or image data. Now, as they have evolved, now they also want to capture the behavioral data. Just as an example, let's say I use AI to generate some insights from the financial data I feed into ChatGPT. Now, am I actually using it? Right? That cannot be captured in that very moment when that insight is generated, right? So now they are being trained on behavioral data sets. And when that happens, emotion phase will also come into play. So I feel we are doing cutting edge stuff. So again, it is here to stay. We need to embrace it. And at leadership level, it is a must that they embrace it rather than think of it as something which will make people obsolete. Yes, there are tasks which can be made easier, but humans and AI will need to work in sync.
Mhm. Wonderful. As you can hear, Ronak, we're just talking about some fun facts or the facts around AI. Um, I was just, while we were preparing on this topic and just going through some stuff, just yesterday in Bangalore, Nandan Nilekani, he was talking about how digital India with UPI, right? Like we know now, there are 400 million users of UPI, and every day there are billions of transactions happening. And how he is talking about now the use of AI in India specifically for the economic value, and how using AI, agriculture can be really involved. So that was such an amazing, news that I read about, how it can benefit India. And even now, when we think of us, right, like Ronak, you are in India as well. When we leave from our house going for errands or dining or shopping, all we ensure is our mobile is with us. We are not worried about the wallet, but all we are ensuring that we have the mobile phones with us, and that's amazing to see how for a country which is not there is the literacy rate is low, but then how digital literacy is really increasing. And when I have guests from UAE and US, and they see the locals using, not money for transactions, but really their phones, they feel so inspired. So with that, context setting, any other finding before we really, deep dive, Ronak? Any other fact around AI that you would like to share with our participants today before we
Yeah,
move on?
so see, I think in our childhood, every one of us has written that essay, the pros and cons of science. It is on our judgment, how we use it. And I think that still stays relevant. There have been a couple of studies by the likes of MIT and Wharton, wherein they tried to test as the impact of using AI on cognitive skills. So when the pilot group was given, in two batches, just to use the conventional Google search to write an essay versus using AI to write an essay, the depth of the analysis varied a lot more, right?
Mhm.
Interestingly, when they were asked to quote their own writing setup which they had submitted, people who had used exclusively AI or other ChatGPT equivalents, they were not able to recall quickly. So
Hmm.
that recall time, that
Yeah,
ability to form your own original thoughts, right? So that is something which is taking a hit while it is way too early. But do feel that we need to have that balancing act wherein we are not able to just use AI, but also, have those guardrails where we know that this is the boundary to which we push it.
absolutely. Your this story reminds me of another. just a conversation I had with my friend last week, and she was talking about that how her husbands forget, her anniversary every year, and this time he remembered to wish her, and he wanted to make it special, so he gave her a letter, like a love letter sorts, after like 18 years of their wedding, and that letter was written using AI, and the letter had the word synergy. So the moment she read that letter, she's like, she asked him as to who wrote this, like, and it didn't feel real for her. And the response that she had to share with me was that it really didn't feel that, I could connect with that letter and that language. And the response that she had for him was, it looked like, a CEO is writing some post on LinkedIn. That's how it felt for me. And she said, if you really want that synergy, if you just say, just hand me a cup of tea and say, let's have tea together, that would really feel synergy to me, versus you handing over that letter, AI generated letter with the word synergy in there. So exactly to what we are talking, Ronak, the first question that I have for you is, most leaders are really saying that human skills matter more now, as AI is really increasing. The use of AI is really increasing. Human skills would matter most. So, what, according to you, I know you're doing a lot of research on this, and you're writing papers, etc. Like, what specific skills do you think is becoming, non-negotiable? And maybe if you can just give also a reasoning along with it.
Sure, sure. So I think I'll start at the very top, specific to how CXOs operate. So I think as we are here, AI needs to be factored in. There are firms like Gartner, uh, which 2 years ago they were positioning themselves as, research advisory, and all of a sudden they lost a lot of business simply because a lot of information which they used to sell at a premium is now accessible to everyone through ChatGPT. So when we think of that, I think the strategic advisory piece, or the way we are able to position AI, how do we integrate AI? Okay. So when leaders think of it, I feel the strategic part of it needs to be there. When I say strategic, it means that leaders have to take a call. How do they integrate AI into KPIs? From an industry standpoint of view, for instance, Zomato couple of years ago started building their own in-house AI chatbot, right, to replace a lot of people who were in the customer service center. And now for them, the KPI would be a response rate, right? Are the grievances of the customer getting addressed in a humane way despite leveraging
Mm,
only, AI chatbot? For a firm like Goldman Sachs, or even professional services firm like McKinsey, couple of days ago they said our total workforce is 60,000 with 25,000 agents, right? So can we say that there is a faster turnaround time for certain tasks which are
mm,
more admin in nature, right? So that also leads to faster decision making, right? More often than not, we do and are aware of the fact that a lot of times the bureaucracy can impede decision making, and speed is the game right now. So they need to ensure that if AI can be integrated and we can capture that in the decision making turnaround time. So, like I said, the strategic mindset to capture that in KPIs, that is one. Second, and I think this is the most critical one before I deep dive into the other two, which I have in mind, is the learning orientation. More often than not, there's a whole fear factor that, we might be resigned to oblivion if we don't get the hang of things. And a lot of people, they start with the technical know-how. I don't come from engineering background. I don't call myself an AI expert. I call myself an AI learner. There is something happening every day, right? It's just that I need to be aware of the lay of the land. I need to have a mindset where I don't see it as just unlearning and relearning. I should think of it as my own personal growth, right? So from that perspective, I think the whole hunger for, learning and growth mindset are very critical. For instance, in my, case, I try to understand how AI is impacting the world around me. I'm majorly into human capital consulting, and this emerged as a white space that people who are in the middle and senior management are realizing that they are not able to upskill themselves. And the biggest bottleneck for them, they were not able to approach their subordinates for learning, right? So all they need is reverse mentoring. There is ample research around the same, right? We have had models around peer learning. We have had models around, learning through digital portals. If it,
Mentoring, like
yeah,
from
so
seniors.
yeah, so now if there is a window wherein CXOs can learn from people who are at entry level but are tech savvy and are able to share their insights, I think that could be a very much of a game changer. And this has not been done, or it has been done for a long time now. For instance, when we do sales, right, or when the products are being iterated from one version to another, how does that happen? Through consumer feedback, right? So a bottom-up approach. From consumer, it goes to the salesperson. From salesperson, it goes to the territory manager and then to the head of marketing and sales who builds those strategy, right? So they need to have their ears on the ground, which in this case will be the people who are actually very much invested in AI. That is the Gen Z and the millennial workforce. So that is where I feel they should have that. And then the third, and I think this is even more critical, is the fact that the human judgment, right? More often than not, there are every decision has two parts to it: the objective, fact based, data based, and the other is the emotional side of things. As a VC, somebody invests not just based on the financials, but also in the growth or the story of the founder, right? With AI, the objectivity has increased. It is devoid of emotions, at least as of now, right? So when leader does take a call, that will impact the entire organization. So now they need to embrace AI, understand when to veto AI or supersede AI, when to align with AI, when to rely on AI for
Mhm.
their decision making, right? So I think these are the skills. And of course, the fourth one, and this is even more critical, and this is coming from a whole perspective of a CXO, right? Everyone is pushing for AI, right? But when I go back to the lay of the land learning orientation, more often than not, they are not aware what about AI they need to integrate in their entity. Just as an example, uh, there are so many tie-ups happening globally. A lot of the entities right now have a MOU with OpenAI. They sign up for the enterprise solution. But Gemini has, rapidly scaled their capabilities. Grok is also doing great. There is one from China, and there are a few more which are emerging, and there are a few free source LLMs as well. So, as a entity, they need to take a call which vendor to really onboard and how to leverage them, right? So again, all boils down to the fact that they can only take that call once they are themselves aware of AI. Secondly, I think the fourth skill set which I was referring to is the art of structured communication and storytelling, right? Once, as a CFO, let's say somebody takes a call that these are the numbers, this is my analysis, but I need to present it to the board, right? How does that happen? AI can give you insights, right? AI may give you synthesized versions of your recommendations, but to weave a story around it, to make sure that you are able to share actionable insights with the board, that can only be something which a human can do, at least as of now,
Yeah.
right? So the art of storytelling, which has been passing knowledge from generation to generation, even before printing came into play. So that as a skill set is still and even more critical at this stage.
Amazing. Otto Schammer, Ronak uses the word sensing, which I'm sure all the participants here and you are aware of that, which is from the field, right? So it is so much nuanced. It can be all data can be as much as data you can want from AI, you can get it, but making meaning out of that is a very unique thing that a human or an employee for that organization can judge. So I see the relevance of AI there and see the human and the relevance of the human bringing their sense making based on what the data was generated from AI. Beautiful. So, and here there is another example I would like to share. And this is, based on my conversation with one of the corporates where, based on the AI, what actually it came up as a report, as a performance appraisal report for one of the employees is as a non-performer, right? And it's only this manager who knows that the non-performance is because this employee is grieving. Now, had the management just seen the report and the performance appraisal report, and based on that, if they have to take a decision, then the person may be sacked. But here, if only the human could, bring up those points, saying that, there is a bit of coaching or mentoring going on, and this person is actually grieving, then maybe there can be a different action taken there. So,
You actually made me recall a very interesting fact, and I think audience will also relate to it. So, when AI as a use case started initially in HR, right? So it started with hiring, right? And I think everyone must have read at least one or the other post around how ATS is being used to identify profiles, and now even candidates are using AI to build those perfect resumes, right? So we are missing out on the actual human capabilities, what they bring to the table, right? Because when they go to the first round of interview, the person who they believe is the one in as per resume doesn't show up, right?
mm,
So the reality versus the perfect AI resume, I feel the authenticity goes missing. Which point I think so. While in the initial days, tech firms were accused that their AI models were only looking for perfect, you know, resumes, and they were in a way diminishing the chances of people from certain ethnicities at times to be part of such tech firms like Amazon. However, McKinsey provided a pro use case. Only recently, uh, they did a whole analysis of the career trajectories of people they had hired. So they had a very great insight that people who they believed were the perfect profiles, the ones who are passing out from Ivy League B schools and been with them, they felt that the people who were coming from tier 2 B schools were more likely to succeed and go on to become partners because they have a hunger to prove themselves, right? Not that other people did not have great opportunities, but for their own firm, the longevity and somebody's progress was far more higher for people who were coming from tier 2 B schools, not from their perfect, you know, persona of that profile. So yeah.
thank you. And to the participants here, like coaches, leaders listening to this conversation, what do you think, is the human skills that matter more in this time where AI is really increasing? Like, feel free to put your, thoughts in the chat box. What do you think? Ronak has shared his thoughts, and based on his experience and based on what he said, I am realizing that sense making is so critical from the human element. What are your thoughts?
Can we
And
unmute a few audience if somebody's keen to share their
yeah,
take?
if you want to raise your hand, I'm sure that button would be still active to raise your hand. We can unmute and hear your point as well. Anybody wants to contribute?
I think Rinku has raised her hand.
Okay. Uh, Yamini, will you be able to help me to?
Yes, sure, Smita. I
Yeah,
have
Rinku.
asked
Yes.
Rinku.
Thank
Oh,
you. Thank you. Hi, Rinku. Good to see
Hey,
you here.
yeah. If you can also, I can on my video. Is there a chance that I can on my video? So they don't think that they're talking to a blank wall.
Sure. Will you be able to do that, Yamini?
yes, Rinku, I've just given you the permission. If you could just try now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
great.
hi, I'm Rinku, and I am in a field of design. So I'm an interior designer by profession for past 2 decades. So I feel AI has definitely taken a lot of place, but design is as an industry, it is still very raw. So this is an area where yes, the 3D making has become very easy for us. We do not have to spend a lot of money on 3D. artists and 3D visualizers, and even the time spent on doing those 3D have drastically reduced to a few hours, which has worked in our favor. But when it comes to design, you can easily ask the clients can ask to design it in certain way, but the heart and the soul is missing. Like how that love letter had the heart and the soul missing. Similarly, in design, you need the heart and the soul. You can ask the Chat GPT or Gemini to make a perfect house, but it will be like a cookie cutter for every single person. So you need the brief should be the heart is missing. So I feel in design industry, AI has a long way to go. You can disagree with me. Please tell me what you feel about it.
So, I think Ananya and Harsha also have their share to take, but I'll just share my thoughts on what you shared. And Rinko, I totally align with you on this. When and this is not just about design field, creativity at large, right? It as of now comes from human. So we are all aware that content industry took a hit when chat gpt came into play, but now as we are repositioning it, I feel the demand for human original content is becoming even more, and they are now able to charge even a bit more premium because AI has a limitation, right? And the limitation is based on the prompts we provide, right? So the prompt is driven by the creativity or the mind of that individual, right? So while it will evolve to that sentient, artificial intelligence form when it will become more aware, but at this point, I totally agree. In the creative fields, I think the human mind supersedes, right? And while AI can still enable and unlock a lot more, windows and broaden the horizons, but it has to be driven by the human mind. So yeah, totally aligned with you. I think Ananya was next, and then Harsha, and then there is a question in the chat as
Question in
well.
the chat as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
While Yamini is unmuting, Ananya and Harsha, you can, if you want to respond to this question, Ronak.
sure. So I think in the field of HR, will AI end up making existing processes more efficient, or do you see a possibility of AI radically changing any aspect of HR? Yeah. So see, I have been part of a lot of HR transformations, and one thing wherein HR is already leading the way is HR operations, which is the spine, right? So employee grievances, they have now internal chatbots for hiring, while the initial ATS and AI-driven, hiring uh, has taken a bit of a hit, but it is evolving again to be more inclusive. Then learning and development, right? We all have been there wherein we were provided these enterprise LMS solutions. We will just skip the, video to the end and just fulfill the, you know, threshold learning experience. But now iterative learning is happening because now it is customized to in an individual's need. I'm sure everyone here must have experienced that from the first time they ever interacted with ChatGPT to now, ChatGPT is now able to understand you a bit more, right? So it's like a support system which understands you more the more conversation you have with it, right? So I think in L&D, in HR operations, and in talent acquisition, we are seeing certain, things changing. But HR ops, as of now, is the space wherein automation has a lot of potential. So that's where it is. The agentic AI part, at least, is taking a lot more precedence. Uh,
I hope.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ananya.
All right.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Ronak. Thanks for
Hi,
sharing. Hi,
Ananya.
Smita.
Hello.
Ronak, I'm working a bit in the leadership space. I also talk a lot about communication myself. And the last point of the skills that you mentioned were on storytelling and the communication of the data basically in certain ways that we can get from AI. But could you maybe I just wanted to understand a few more examples from where you are working right now. So within BCG or anything that you've had in the past. Um, there's a great way to use chat gpt and with that, I mean, even though we keep saying chat gpt, I know there are like 100 more tools with AI and companies are using a lot more advanced tools right now. GPT is obviously more like a Google search for most people in figuring things out. But just wanted to understand a little bit more from your personal experience in using that. Firstly, the number of tools or any example that you could give of something that is dominant in companies like BCG right now. And secondly, in terms of the storytelling itself, where do you see that playing out? Like, do you see the communication aspect still, what should I say, taking precedence over AI in the next few years to come?
Okay. So I think I'll share a holistic answer. With my examples, you will be able to understand what is the cutting edge stuff uh, which is happening, and the positioning of communication, or will it be able to still take over AI? I'll start with an example, right? So in earlier in the day, I was telling Smita, and I'm very positive that a lot of people must have heard how Deloitte shared reports with government of Australia, and it was entirely, AI generated content, and they were penalized for it because there was no human intervention. There was a lot of data hallucination, right?
Mhm.
So there has to be a human, checking of that particular, deliverable. Secondly, imagine this. This was a dossier of multiple hundreds of pages. When I'm in a boardroom, at the end of the day, what exactly does a leader want from me? They want a sharp communication of what they need to do next, right? When I walk into a lot of, and in early in a project, whenever I walk into a room and I engage with a CXO, the usual response is, whatever you're sharing with me is something which a B school grad will anyway share, and we have hundreds of them. Why should we hire BCG, right? So I think therein the know-how kicks in. Right now, like I said, for instance, the generative AI totally depends on the prompt, right? When I am engaging with a CXO in real time, and when he just dismisses five solutions I pitch to him, how do I come up with sixth, which is not generic in nature?
Mhm.
As I had also shared in my example earlier in the studies done by MIT and Wharton, the depth is missing, right? So that is what communication solves for, and it only comes with expertise. Given that I have that T-shaped orientation, wherein I started as a strategy consultant, then focus on human capital, and then within human capital, I focus on leadership development, culture, and upskilling. So that experiential learning comes in, it makes the insights more authentic. So just to address your question regarding communication, yes, it is here to stay. Now, going back to the example of, what is the likes of BCG and other consulting firms they are doing. So what we are looking for right now, interestingly, we were the first firm to do the study with OpenAI regarding the use cases for, generative AI. So 40% of the productivity increased. So think of it in a metaphor that, if I was a chef, I can get the dough from GPT, but
Mm,
I have to still make the dish out of it, right? Same dough can be used for making multiple cuisines.
mm,
So that depends on me.
mm,
So again, so now what the firms are doing is they are now trying to leverage agentic AI to take care of the redundant tasks. So a lot of admin tasks will be catered to
mm.
by AI.
Yeah.
Secondly, McKinsey is a century-old firm, right? So what they are doing is, let's say they had a firm which came with a problem statement to them in 2021, and another firm comes up with a similar problem statement in 2025. So initially, they used to have a knowledge team or a research team which will, figure out when and which client did they, similar to using a case reference in law or in, in
Yeah.
medical field. So
Yeah.
now they have in-house knowledge, system built totally out of AI, wherein they can access it just by sending a prompt. So they
Mm,
are doing knowledge optimization. And I think that is a game changer. But again, the third thing, and this is why consulting is taking a bit of heat, because now we are able to be 40% more productive, the cost and the pricing are becoming a lot more competitive. We cannot charge a premium anymore, right? And that is where human authenticity plays a critical. If we want to charge a premium, who are we bringing on board to really solve our problem in a unique manner, right?
Mm.
So I hope it does help address your question.
It does. I just have a quick follow-up just on your last point.
Okay.
Um, I mean, completely agree with that, right? So now that there is a so much more competition given that AI, what skills are you looking for in people who want to join BCG and McKinsey and consulting firms? Because knowledge is, a lot
Um,
more democratic now. So
yeah.
what skills are you actually looking for?
So I think that skill set in pre-AI or post-AI or pre-COVID, post-COVID has still remained consistent. Problem solving, structured communication, storytelling. If you
Okay.
have these three,
Mm.
you're more likely to crack it than anyone else.
Mm.
Even when I was giving interviews at McKinsey, PwC, and BCG, it
Mm.
was not about my solutioning, but my approach to solve the problem which they assess. In my final round at BCG, I feel that was my worst case scenario because I tried to fit the problem in every framework I could find. But at the end, I gave up and said, I don't feel it will, fit any framework. And the partner who was taking my interview said, that is exactly what happened on client side
Mm.
because it was such a unique problem. So
Mm.
human mind, human creativity, it cannot be bottled in a mixture. It could always not be rational. We need to have that outside view of thinking, but that's why I said the cognitive skills are taking a bit of it. We will need to find a balancing act soon enough.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks so much,
Yeah,
Ronak.
no worries. I think Harsha had a question as well.
Had, and then the question that I had for you is exactly the question that Andy is asking, but maybe we'll take Harsha's question first.
Sure.
And
Yeah, actually, it was more of an observation that I want to share, and I think Ronak did say that. See, one of the unintended consequences of AI that I'm seeing at my customer place is that the job polarization, which is basically the average repetitive skills kind of job, is getting replaced with automation, whereas a job that needs high judgment, high thinking, which needs empathy or ethical way to assess it, those are being valued disproportionately now. And what this is doing is it's actually creating a huge gap in between. So it's actually putting these jobs at extreme. So the repetitive jobs are becoming like very low value paid stuff, and the other end where I just narrated becomes very high value. So it's become like a job polarization, I would actually say. Um, and that brings a very different dynamics at the workplace. I think that is something that I don't know if we have an answer to how we are going to approach a workplace which has such a work dynamic.
Uh, Harsha, see, whatever you just shared is pretty much spot on, and it's an evolving landscape. So while I have a lot of examples which I could share, but I think AI needs to evolve a lot more, is how I would sum it up before those extreme scenarios come into play.
okay. Amazing, thank you. So I think Andy's question, Ronak, this is that one key question, which I don't know how many can we anticipate in terms of the risks of using blindly, because we all of you present here and Ronak, you already shared a few examples earlier when we were discussing as to the use of AI and blindly. Would you like to share some examples there?
Yeah, so I think again going back to the whole North Star of this conversation, the human judgment, right? That is something which will help us. At times, uh, you know, right now the way AI is able to, really identify the perfect profile for any job, uh, they may lose out on any essential talent, right? So I totally agree with you. But like I shared, it is an evolving algorithm, let's just say. So as we feel that there are certain, outliers which are exceptional talent, which do not fit the mold or the criteria which was fed into the, you know, AI algorithm to find the talent, the algorithm will evolve, similar to how the customer, chatbots are evolving with responses, right? So at the back end, the hiring teams are, aggressively, and the tech teams are aggressively investing in making or training the models in a better manner. And it's still early days. So yes, I think the only way to ensure that this does not happen is by making sure that we fine tune and refine these algorithms. And secondly, if there is, I think, a human intervention, right? Given that in India, let's just say that, for each job I see on LinkedIn, there are thousands of applicants, right? So they may need to do that random checking like we do in supply chain, right? Just to assess the quality of a batch, right? So I feel that human intervention needs to be there, but given the volume, uh, only time will tell. So the models need to get better, is how I would respond to that.
Yeah. And also to just to add to that, it's like when we talk about talent and culture fitment, it's not just to do with like earlier what you were sharing, Ronak. It's not just the the B schools, but maybe a layer below, you may just get the right fit. So it's not really to do with qualification, but
Yeah.
in terms of attitudinally and otherwise, if there is a culture fitment, and I'm not sure how much can you define, with AI tools.
Yeah. So, see, my response was as a precursor to their assessment, even selection for the interview. Because
Mm.
once they are at the interview stage or at the assessment stage, then of course, the system kicks in, and and honestly, I can very well share, and I take pride in it. As a candidate, in terms of capability, there was a question which I was asked at McKinsey. What are the common research biases? Being a PhD, that is something which could have been my, like, something I could address in sleep, but I blanked, right? The interviewer gave me a couple of minutes to think. I could not think on spot. I told him honestly, I'm not able to. I thought it was the end of my, candidature at McKinsey. But that authenticity is something which they liked, and they said that more than the skills, it is the culture fit we look for. Skills can be taught over time, but culture fit cannot be.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
human intervention does matter, but yes, at the stage of, filtering the right profiles, that is still a work in progress.
Mm. And so Andy's question, Ronak, was very specific, to the talent, and but we were also talking about, for organizations, the roles and responsibilities in
Correct.
terms of, how do we define the roles and responsibilities, and now that AI is kind of, kicking in, and we see a lot of decision making being dependent on AI. So how do
Yeah.
we kind of mitigate?
Right. So I
Uh,
can I can share a real-time example which a friend of mine shared. So, ethics and and compliance is becoming a major issue. While the likes of EU and US government are coming up with, robust AI policies, uh, at entity level, it is still a white space, right? And they onboarded his entity to do the policy advisory, or at least to build a policy handbook, and then also identify who will lead that for the AI, KPIs per se. So there was a bit of a challenge that, whether it should be the IT vertical or the technology vertical which should look at it, or every BU should have their own, ethics and AI compliance, officer. So again, going back to the, North Star here is the fact that at the end of the day, we need to make sure that governance is there, right? Secondly, so the roles are not going to change in terms of what they are in technicality or designation. The scope will adapt. So at the end of the day, the CTO got additional set of responsibilities. The board got an additional set of responsibility because they had to form a panel within the board, which will strictly objectively assess the AI KPIs, right? So that is happening. The role of CEO, CIO is evolving. Uh, and for instance, like I was mentioning about the HR ops, right? So now it is HR ops and transformation officer, right? So the speed at which they are able to embed AI into agentic AI into the system, they are able to, address the grievances of the employees. They are able to have a reduced turnaround time for other HR operations. That does come into play. So the scope will change, not the roles essentially.
Hmm. Any, with this sharing, Ronak, anything changed for you at BCG?
Oh, yes. So I pivoted to commercial strategy for APAC, and there is a very critical example we are doing. So when ChatGPT's first version, which is essentially generative AI, came into play, uh, we were, you know, onboarded to build GPTs, which would essentially be able to coach, you know, the CXOs or the MDPs or the senior partners on the pricing, right?
Hmm.
So how will we do that? We had a lot of know-how, in-house know-how, right? We also did a lot of expert interviews, which added as a, learning input. So we trained it on, so many data sets, and by the end, then we piloted it to a lot of MDPs. So in a way, we are, leveraging AI in-house. We are trying to identify the use case, but the speed at which AI is evolving from generative, it went to agentic, and like I said, the end game is sentient, artificial intelligence. So I think right now it is all about defining the use cases, which we are actively doing. We are actively identifying the, use cases for using AI. But yes, it should not come at the cost of, this. Uh, like one of our senior leaders said that yes, speed should be there, but not at the cost of precision, right? Because data hallucination, we need to be really aware of, right? If let's just say in pricing, which is so sensitive, right? If they suggest a metric which is entirely lopsided and it does not cater to the client, we might lose on the client. Some client which is bringing us 10 million USD worth of revenue every year, we might lose out because we overplayed our hand and we charged a premium more than the competitors. So yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Ronak, there is a question here on the chat by Shadman. Which skills should we be focusing on developing to prepare ourselves?
Yeah, so I think again going back to the initial part of our conversation,
Yeah.
at this time, just do couple of things. First, have that mindset of learning about AI. In whatever field you are operating in, only you will be able to relate to the stuff you read, right? So when I started digging more about AI, I started to identify, okay, this is what I work on. Maybe AI can help me with that. So I think get the, lay of the land, learn more about it. That is one. Secondly, like I said, you have to find something which is complementary to what AI offers you, right? So if AI is able to generate something for you in terms of, let's say, content, uh, make it more human in nature, even if, let's say, it's for a LinkedIn post. Thirdly, if you certainly, advance in your skill set regarding AI, start to think how many of your daily tasks can you automate, right? You as a human need to be more productive, right? So just figure out those use cases in personal life and then scale it to your professional use cases. I think that's my approach and as how I took it. If for somebody, for instance, if I have to go in a boardroom, right? So what I'll do is, I'll upload my proposal on ChatGPT, tell them the target audience, like there will be a CTO, there will be a CEO, there will be a CHRO or some business unit head, and I need to pitch and sell this, and get a yes from them. What are the questions I can, anticipate? So maybe something I may not have been able to think of and would have been, a blind side. I get at least, an estimate of whatever, those questions could be. And then I prep accordingly. So the responses are mine, right? Or even if I
Mhm.
asked it to generate responses, I then contextualize it. Like I was sharing, I prepare the dough and then I serve the cuisine based on my own creativity.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cindy is here with us, and I was just sharing with her, just giving another example of this. So one of our we mentor, right? Like Ronak, you're part of Coacharya. At Coacharya we do the mentoring exercise with our learners, and then so here there was one coach who did the transcript and then upload it on ChatGPT without the ICF core competencies and said, evaluate. And ChatGPT never says no, so it sent the evaluation back to the coach. However, the language that was used, you could easily make out that it's not the ICF PCC markers used for evaluation. It's ChatGPT's version of coaching that was used, or maybe some bit of ICF referencing was done, but the competencies heading was all, wrong. It was absolutely wrong. So somebody who's, aware of it, the moment you will see it, you will know that, it's just the same recipe kind of a thing used, not really tailor-made to the ICF core competencies.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, and I think this is a tangent from the learning perspective again. A lot of CXOs who I do these workshops with, and I'm also going to do a faculty development program at one of the leading B schools in the country. Uh, Therein, they want to make sure that they want their class to be more engaging, more stimulating. As of now, they feel that, and these are people who are in their early 50s. They feel that, as of now, it has been a one-way street. They go, they present something, or they write something on the board and they come out of the class. But now it's not the case anymore. They are more worried about the retention of the knowledge. Given our attention span is decreasing so much, they feel that the next future of workforce might not have that attention span, and the deployment of the skills they learn in the classroom might not actually happen. So how do we solve for it, right? So, but then when I tried to share with them that, do you actually use something? So they said, yes, on paper, I do agree, but I'm hesitant, right? And this was something which kept on coming up. So then I shared an example, and this is a real-time example which happened at McKinsey. There was this Japanese medtech firm. They were brilliant, but their revenue tanked in last 2 years. So we were doing the diagnosis, and we discovered that it's not about the capability, it's not about the resources, it's not about the financial funding they were putting in to build the cutting edge equipments, but it was about the fear of failure, right? So that R&D team was always under the pump to deliver products in a quick time. So it was coming at the cost of the quality of the product. The products were half-baked, they were not market ready, but they were pushing them out because of the pressure of the board. So the transparency was missing. So from what we figured was going to be like a cost-cutting transformation, it became a culture transformation, right? So at the end of the day, and Netflix does it really well. They celebrate failures, right? Innovation cannot happen without failures.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm sure every one of us has heard the story of Edison, how many attempts it took for him to, come up with the right prototype. So, like I said, just embrace that failure, even if it is using, GPT for assessing your PCC markers. You may get a sense of what not to do at the very least. So I think just embrace AI. It's here to stay.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, that sums it up.
And I think from the organization point, it is about, how do you really award being curious rather
Yeah.
than, just the outcome of it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so, we're just coming close to our, time for today. I just want to check with the audience if you have any other question for Ronak, any other comment?
And
And Ronak,
feedback.
yeah.
I love OS feedbacks, but would love feedback or anything I could understand from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the questions are amazing, right? Like
Yes.
that helped a lot in the conversation today. So, Ronak, just that one last question I have for you is, if a leader, and just as when we just focus on one thing, it stays with us. So what, as a leader, had to focus just on one capability to be future AI ready?
Hmm.
Yeah, Hemlata.
It's a
Bang
tough
on.
cookie to crack.
So Hemlata has put it a little bit more specifically, Ronak, as an HR professional, how can we be future AI ready?
See, I would have generally addressed this with the learning orientation and whatnot, but I have already done that. So let me think of the second skill set. Give me like 10 seconds because I want to really end it with a very objective answer. Yeah, so see, I feel at this time, there is always this, fear in our minds that AI will displace us. The sense of job security is also something which is lingering at the back of our minds. So I think we need to have that, mindset that human judgment, human creativity still, as of now, supersedes AI, right? The quality of the prompts you share with it will define the output it generates, right? So I think the ownership mindset is something which I would always expect anyone and every one of us to have. And second is, of course, accountability, right? I have a lot of people around me who generate AI stuff and share it with me. I'm able to figure out, right? So feel free to use AI, but make sure that you are able to own that content. You are able to own that process if you're using agentic AI to schedule something or automate something. So own it,
Yeah,
right? So that accountability and ownership is something which I do feel are critical.
amazing. So basically, AI can provide all the data, can provide all the calculations. However, as humans, we need to weigh it well for us. So use the dough by the
Yeah.
AI, but be creative with how you use it. Take the poem from the AI, but add your synergy to it to make it meaningful for yourself and for others. So thank you so much, Ronak. Amazing. It was a lovely conversation. Just loved all the examples that you really shared and made it very relatable, right? Like it was not really theoretical. So thank you so much for all the insights. And thank you, coaches and leaders, for joining us today. We'll see you again, next week in this series of the chat with corporate leaders, and I'll come back again with another topic.
Thank you,
Thank
Smita,
you.
and thank you to audience for raising the bar with the questions they asked. They were really spot on and sharp.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye bye.